Welcome back to another edition of Check Call. Don't forget to subscribe to Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we welcome Jay Frieden, the COO of RJ Logistics. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Good morning, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing quite well today. I'm excited to get into this. This is something we've covered a little bit on the show, and this is the ever-present, ever-looming freight fraud problem. That's easy to say. Before we get too far down the freight fraud rabbit hole, though, let's get some background on you and how you got started at RJ Logistics.
So I'm a lifer. I've been doing this for a long time. Started out in a family trucking company that also did some brokerage and some warehousing, and that eventually led to being sold to Sell It On Trucking. So it's been a long time at Sell It On in different roles, and eventually was running the non-asset side. So the freight brokerage, freight management, and warehousing. After that was sold, took a little bit of a break, and in 2021, I ended up at RJ Logistics. So it's been a journey, and going from a $1 billion+ publicly traded company to a much smaller family-owned company. It's been nice. It's been very enjoyable. I like that size a little better, I think, or at least so far.
It's very different, kind of, because you have in that big corporate structure, you have the rules and the everything, and then the family-owned vibe is it's a different vibe entirely. And it's personally, I do prefer that as well, having had a touch of both. But there are some benefits to be said for both of them. But I do also tend to lean more to the smaller side.
Yeah, there's not departments of I can't call legal, I can't go call these. So, but you get used to it quick. Keeps you on your toes, let you get a lot of different things. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
It does. But also, for the record, anytime someone has a question that this should be called to legal, you should still probably find legal and do that.
Oh
Even if
yeah,
it's like one person, or if it's just like the legal-ish guy who then worked with outside counsel, we should always love our legal friends.
they're on speed dial some days, unfortunately.
Especially as we tackle freight fraud, they're out there making sure that ideally, in a perfect world, your insurance is doing its thing and your carriers aren't casually committing crimes.
And if it was perfect, we wouldn't even have this conversation. But unfortunately, the world is not perfect. It creates
Yeah.
opportunities for logistics companies to help protect our customers.
Look, I would love a single day. I have yet to go over greater than 10 years long. I have yet to go a single day without something happening in logistics that's let's just say unexpected. Just like, oops, got to fix this problem. I never had a day problem free.
I think that's our business, really. It's just problem solvers. I always joke, if it worked perfect, what are we here for? But rarely do things go perfect. And when they do, it surprises you. And some days you get some new creative ways of making it more complex. Uh, Sometimes I feel like you can create them on your own, and there's plenty of outside influences to help us make those as well.
I personally like one. I consider it a badge of honor when you have a problem that no one else in the organization has seen before, and you get everyone to go, wait, what? What's going on? And I consider that kind of like a badge of honor when you get every single person to just go, well, that's new, because statistically nothing's new in like a whole group of people. But yeah, no, if I can say, that's like a badge of honor to me, is like having an original problem.
About a week of no problems. That should be a
That should
celebration week.
that should also be, however, we are about real life solutions.
That's true. Good point.
Real life approaches here.
We
We
can,
don't live in a fairyland.
yeah. Well, all right. I'm back. I'm back to reality.
So going into reality, that ever-present freight fraud problem that's just here, hitting everyone in the face every day. We've seen a lot of double brokering. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim, but also, more importantly, it is happening left, right, all the time. What uh, how would you kind of describe the freight problem in this current logistics market? Would you say that it's kind of an epidemic, or would you say that it's still a growing concern? Like, where are we on the barometer, so to speak?
I'll speak for us as a company. Um, the barometer was off the chart for a while, and you really felt like you can do all the things, you can try to do stuff, but I feel like if the bad guys would just put forth the effort to do the right thing, they would be wildly successful. So you would randomly see stuff over the years during my career, but I really felt like 2022 was the worst that I've seen, and it was all the time. And you really, oftentimes, you didn't know about it because the freight got delivered, you got the POD, everything looks good, and then 3 months later, you got a collector calling you about some invoice that they tracked you down and said, "Why aren't you paying me?" And then you start unraveling it. And then I think you get more and more in tune with question everything. And I feel like then you question everybody, which is terrible to do, and you're like, what did you do to verify this? And that's really, I think where I saw it. Because I mean, you can't stop everything. It's like, how can you reduce this and prevent most of it? Um, and it was tough. And I think the tools 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago just really weren't there. And I think that's really helped reduce it, for us. And I mean, knock on wood, we've seen what was becoming frequent to me is once is too frequent. But yeah, it's just something we don't hear about often, or it's caught before the issue really occurs. But yeah, do I think how rampant it is? I think it's always going to be out there. I mean, the more stuff we go, I mean, digital world, um, very antiquated processes with dealing with authority. We kind of set up the perfect scenario for people to get creative and steal that. And I look at it, you go investigate this stuff and you replay it and you see like these rate cons that the double brokering does. Like, did you try anything? Like, did you even look? Like, this looks like someone wrote it with crayons. And, like the email addresses, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I feel bad for them because most of them, they don't do any credit checks. They don't do any of the normal stuff that would prevent them from this from happening.
I think that because it used to be like it used to just be like, oh, you'd get a double broker here and there. Maybe you'd get one a month, maybe like closer to one every other month. Like it wasn't very you could have like under 20 in a whole year kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where now I think you're like considering it a win if you have like under 20 in like a month or two, because it's just so much more prevalent. But also more importantly, like you said, if I could just get a criminal to just slightly go legit, oh boy, would they be swimming in business. Like just go a little bit legit, go a little bit legit. Because some of their like criminal underground networks are like very sophisticated and very like they have a process, they have things in place, and I am just shocked at how efficient it is. And again, you guys just go legit, you're gonna make so much money.
To set up a factoring company or something that looks like a factoring company to steal the authority, and it's I would think it's a lot of work. It's got to be harder than this business is
Right.
already because you're doing the business and you're doing it as a fraud.
Exactly.
Like it's I'm with you. I just put a little effort and do the right thing, and
But
um,
also like
no,
because like they have the same problems that logistics companies have. Stuff doesn't get delivered on time, or I guess more because they're like, oh, someone figured out in transit that we're stealing this. Like, who knows? But like again, like if you just went legit for 5 seconds, my guy, like you would be in demand, in demand in this industry. But hey, who am I to tell a criminal how to do his job?
it's a nice try, a very nice try.
So,
I
all
don't know
right.
if that's your audience. I'm not sure that. your audience is going to be the criminals, but we'll see.
Again, any criminals out there that are looking for tips, just go legitimate, please. Um, so for you guys specifically, you mentioned 2022 was a really kind of hectic, not like so hectic, but like a really like overwhelming year in regards to fraud. What was that moment that finally made you guys go, okay, we got to get a handle on this. We have to figure out how to get like just kind of get our hands around compliance and fraud prevention. Like, what was that final moment that made you guys say, all right, we can't just mess around with this anymore. We need to protect ourselves?
Yeah, so our our old onboarding solution, as well as our carrier payment platform, just weren't adequate, and we were using kind of a, I would say, homegrown, a built-in onboarding solution, and we knew we had to do something else. And in my background, I've looked at all the different ones out there. We knew from a payment standpoint, been a long time TriumphPay customer, so we knew things like TriumphPay could help because of how they control things. And then the onboarding side, as soon as we saw Jordan make an announcement, he's bringing that up. I'm texting him right away, like, okay, what do we got to do to get on board? Because I mean, it was something that the market desperately needed, and I feel like the competition really kind of maybe sat back a little bit and just said, "Hey, we make a pretty easy, way for carriers to get onboarded, integrates in, but it wasn't really doing the other stuff. You're monitoring the basics, but I mean, insurance, authority, but really not going a whole lot further." And I think the market was prime. And I think Jordan, great idea, went to market with it, and um, really saved companies a lot financially. And, at the end of the day, it's tried to reduce risk for the company and our customers, which is what, we're trying to do.
I think that I think I love that like there were those kind of people in the industry that saw the problem and said, okay, I think we have part of the solution, maybe not the full solution, but although TriumphPay's solution is, I'm not gonna toot their horn too much, but it is pretty comprehensive.
It was something that it changed our back office significantly. I had this, it's not about Triumph, but 2015, 16, right when they were just getting started, I met them at a conference and I was like, how do we get signed up? This is too good to be true. Because it was a major problem for us, just the process of getting that out, and all the notifications. And I think those control points make it more difficult for fraudulent activities to take place.
Also, I think a lot of people think that like, okay, if I'm sitting there and I'm trying to fight fraud and fight double brokering, a lot of people I think feel like it's almost like your carrier sales reps are going to be your first line of defense, which for the most part they are, but also there's a lot in that back office operations in your carrier compliance team, not necessarily the claims team, but like in the people that review insurance, in the people that validate MC numbers, in even your accounts payable, because like a lot of times you can have a carrier that's already onboarded and they're good to go, but then suddenly someone comes in and says, oh, all of our banking information's changed, so can you just send it to us now, without doing any sort of extra verification throughout the whole process. You don't know if that's a real carrier saying our banking information's changed or not. And that's another type, that's like a type of financial fraud. So it definitely like is kind of all like you're getting kind of almost attacked on all sides. And I think a lot of people forget about the importance of some of those back office operations and how you can even kind of have that consistent line of defense just throughout an entire organization. And selfishly, I do like it when people give some love to their back office,
It is, and I think, you mentioned changing bank and all that, all the changing factoring companies, and to push that responsibility off the TriumphPay, besides taking a lot of work off our plate, I mean, it really pushed that to another, more secured way of doing it. It's not just an email coming in that we've got to then verify and do things. So it was a big game changer. And I think it's, kind of we're talking through this, onboarding carriers in the front end, but then on the back office and the financial side, what else can you do to really close that transaction up and make sure you've got all ends of this, as much as possible you can audit and put some more control points in. Because you can put so many in, you can't do anything. So how do you leverage tech? How do you leverage integration? and make it as easy as possible to do this stuff, and then also reduce risk at the same time.
So one of the questions I have is something that we've covered a lot of different aspects of trends in freight fraud and other stuff like that. But one of the things that we haven't covered lately is kind of your specific customers or shippers' reactions to it. Because, a lot of times when you have a shipper my favorite example is they're really great at making muffins. So if you have like the world's best muffin maker and they, have you guys in to carry out their logistics and managed transportation, they've just kind of said, do your thing. Let us know if you have a problem. So typically in the past, when there's been a lot of industry problems, it hasn't necessarily been like headline news, or shippers don't necessarily like kind of know about it or care, for lack of a better word. But now with freight fraud, it's made so many headlines. It's made mainstream headlines, not just niche in the supply chain. And there's also been bills proposed in like for legislation about it. So how do you kind of have those conversations with those shippers that are seeing these things, and they want to make sure that their freight is protected with these crazy rising freight fraud stats?
So I think it's a couple different things. If you've got a shipper with some high value commodities, they often will have that discussion up front. We move some different metals and things that require additional steps to vet carriers out, and also extra steps when they're checking in to pick up loads. And then you have just larger shippers, which has probably experienced this type of fraud before, and they'll ask. And then I was asking around some more to the sales team, and they're like, we also get the ones that ask after the incident happens. It's not always, front and center. And we try and sell to it, because we feel like if we're going to invest in this technology, we're going to invest in these partners. Like we'll add, we want to tell them that we're doing these things to help. But oftentimes it's when they've been involved in an incident that they start asking. But all the bigger shippers have dealt with this, unfortunately. And, they'll ask, do you have a process in place, and what tools? And I think this is where like highway is the gold standard right now. And, you get people just asking, who do you use? Highway. Okay. They know that at some point someone in their risk management has said, okay, this is good that you're using highway to help manage that.
Because I think like the more and more that we kind of get those gold standards, or kind of those people that are known in the industry for, having processes in place, having things that are kind of more or less like, I don't want to say like an immediate like stopgap, but to have those and to have a partner that is taking this seriously and does have protections in place, I feel like that kind of only just says, yeah, no, we know what we're doing here. You can come hang out with us. But obviously, each shipper does things differently.
They do. And it's not just create it and stop. It's what are we going to do to stay one step ahead
Right.
of the bad guys. And I think that's the part of knowing that you've got a partner that's going to continue to invest in it and find new ways as the bad guys, come up with something. You got to stay one step ahead and figure out a way to prevent that. It's an interesting, it's like chess match for everybody to try and who's going to get creative next and come up
I,
with something new.
I like that. And you just got to call on your old Bobby Fischer to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I guess now that you guys have kind of revamped your carrier onboarding process, you've revamped some of your internal processes, you guys have partnered with Triumph and Highway and everybody else and their brother to make sure that you guys are protected, your carriers? No. Well, your carriers are protected, but also your shippers. What kind of results have you guys seen as a result of it? Like, have you seen a decrease in fraudulent activity? Have you been able to kind of more or less stop it before it started? Because in a perfect world, as we were talking at the beginning, I don't think there's a way in which you never have a freight fraud kind of exposure or a situation with it. So I just wondered, like, is it less?
It's significantly less. I mean, to the point I would say it's almost mitigated. You occasionally see something, and what we find, it's sometimes somebody trying to go outside a process, and they get someone does a good job on the phone with them, and maybe change an email address, and they try and do things around the system can make that happen. But we catch a few on the ops floor, but most of it is caught upstream before that. And having that tight integration, we're a McLeod customer, so having that tight integration into our TMS to shut those carriers down as soon as there's fraudulent activities. I also think it's great when you now have such a broad highway has such a broad customer base. Now everybody's contributing to this. So if anybody has an issue with it, everybody wins. Because we're all getting alerted, we're all getting these carriers turned off at the same time. So it's significantly better. It's not something that I think about like I did in 22 when I kept getting these odd emails from collection companies. Then I would ask the story about like how big these things were, and for someone to set up shop and steal millions of dollars in a very short amount of time, it's impressive, but very discouraging that it takes place. So I feel like for us, yeah, the problem is basically gone. We know we gotta stay on our toes to ensure that it doesn't happen. But I think we're so much more cognizant today and so much more educated with data that we just didn't have before. You could do it.
This is like the one really nice thing that I like about the industry is like for the longest time it's always been like, no, I'm going to hold all my secrets over here. I'm not going to tell anyone anything about it. Or no, I'm not going to admit that I've been swindled or cyber attacked or a victim of fraud. Like we're not going to talk about it. But because it's so widespread and happening to everyone, it's kind of more or less opened the floodgates of like, okay, here's who we've had problems with. This is issues. Here's a scam that we've seen. And this is where I'm like, yeah, this is where we come together and help each other and say, hey, I've got this solution. I've got this for you. Because that's really what it is. The more you can compile your resources and kind of share information, the better off everybody's going to be, because it's just more eyes on a problem and more out there. Personally, I love that you guys have got everything, and what a shock that going outside of normal process and procedure is going to open you up to risk. Who would have thought?
I know. And it's like how far you try and lock things down as much as possible without making it very difficult to do things. And users are very creative. I give people credit. If they can find ways to get something done, they will do it.
And I mean, look, we've all been there. We've all had that one load that we can't cover, that we've rolled a few times, and some hero comes in
Yeah.
and is like, oh yeah, I can do it for like a fourth of the cost that you were originally going to do it. Just don't ask any other questions and just give me the load. And that's when you're
Yes.
like, I'm desperate enough to slightly entertain this. We've all been there, but that's how they get you. When you're desperate, that's how they get you. And they're just like, don't worry about it. You don't need to see my insurance. You don't need to see my MC number. Just give me the load. It's fine.
It'll be good. I'm a good person. Trust me.
Trust me, I'm good for it, man. I'm good for it. I wouldn't do that to you.
I know.
Okay. So, all right, Jay, we are coming towards the end of our time together today. But that being said, there's a question that everybody on the show is getting asked, and you, sir, are going to be no exception. So, Jay, if you could build a house out of any food, what would you choose?
So I was expecting this question.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I would make it out of cheese, but a very specific. It would be wheels of Parmesan cheese.
Ooh.
Very dense,
Mhm.
stackable. I think you could get a real structure out of it. No melting.
No melting. And
So
you're relatively protected from the elements because the like casing around Parmesan cheese.
it's like a wax coating or something.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you're good. I think this
I think it could work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be.
Like
Yeah.
building a pyramid.
There you go. A pyramid of Parmesan cheese, which honestly, just bury me inside that at this point in time. Just bury me inside a pyramid of Parmesan cheese.
And if things get bad, you just send the walls up a little bit on the inside.
Exactly. Exactly. There's got to be like a maximum depth and like a minimum. And if you get a little hungry, forget to go to the grocery store. You're good to go.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So that's my idea.
I absolutely love that. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 recommend. So, Jay, if someone has an idea for a Parmesan wheelhouse, or if they have questions about basically how to get to where you guys got when it comes to mitigating fraud, where can they find you outside the show?
website, rjlogistics.com, and find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
You can find Check All the Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/checkcall. See you on the internet. I'm just going to skip that part. Don't forget to